Guys, and welcome to the show. We'll be looking at two tools within some demo it, and then talk about the second tool and demo it as well. And we'll hold questions until the end. If you do have questions, go ahead and use our questions panel so we can go ahead and address them as the course moves forward. All right. Hello, welcome. Again, my name is Leo Levi, and I work with IMAGINiT Technologies. I work on the civil team. I specialize on the AutoCAD piece of software, which is AutoCAD Map Civil and all the infrastructure line within the line of Autodesk products. So let's go ahead and jump in here. I'm going to stop my camera. Just wanted to say hello and hopefully get bandwidth a little bit better as we start moving forward. The outline that we're going to go through here is talking about accessing the tools, a little bit about the interface, and a quick demo. With less than 30 minutes each, we're not going to get a lot into a lot of the goodies. Just so you know, these two tools are sessions that IMAGINiT's looking at putting courses together. The Project Explorer is part of our 2022 Civil 3D training, and we're working on creating something for grading optimization. So let's take a look at that first, the grading optimization. Specifically, we're going to look at for this presentation is really surrounding 2022. Grading optimization, the Go features here, are not part of the standard Civil 3D installation. You're going to have to go out to your either your manage.autodesk.com, or if you happen to have the tool set installed for the App Store, you're going to have to find it there. Now, just like vehicle tracking as an example, it's an extra tool set that you install, very much like service packs as well. It is included with the collections. Otherwise, it will need its own entitlement. So just because you have Civil 3D doesn't mean you necessarily have and own the grading optimization. I'll go ahead and tell you now that even if you do have it, it may not appear on the list. You may need to log on to the web and get it, because I know we had, at least when it first rolled out for 2022, a little bit of problem having those licenses show up. So just be aware, you have to go out there and download and install it. Once it's installed, let's talk about finding it. This is that's released in 2022 for the ACC collections. It runs inside of Civil 3D 2022, and once you install, you're going to see it on the ribbon on the Analyze tab all the way to the right on the Optimization panel over there. Okay. Now, it's really cool what we can do with this technology. It is not necessarily replacing the old grading tools, it's new technology. So it allows us to set design criteria to our line work and let the software run through those iterations. And we can monitor as it runs through those iterations and call it good and stop it, or let it run through from beginning to end to see how it grades out of sight. Now, when you use it, you're going to get a series of tabs. You're going to see the AutoCAD palettes pop up, and it's going to have just a brand new tab down here called grading, and you're going to get all these different options to create grading objects, really what they are. Most of them driven from AutoCAD polylines, which you're going to already have. You're going to design your site and lay it all out, then you start adding intelligence. Not like the grading tools and feature lines, those still exist. Now, we do have, as we start creating these elements, the properties of the particular element that we're creating. In this case, this was a site that was being creating a zone, and it's called Site 5, and the constraints that we're assigning to it. Now, there are different types of objects that we can create from within the software, as you can hear listed, and once they get created, you can see that they're listed out as how many you have. You can expand out those categories and see where they're at and what parameters they have behind it. So it's quite a bit different of a tool. When you start using these tools, you do start by creating a grading zone, the limit that you're working, and then typically you work from the outside in. The direction that you actually draw the line work, so if you start with an AutoCAD polyline that represents a swale or an edge of pavement, it will define the direction that you're grading towards, like a 2%, it's gonna go from beginning to end. As you start creating elements, they can be drag and drop for controlling kind of priorities, very similar to how feature lines work out. First, we'll need to create those grading objects and assign those design parameters. Once that's done, we can hit the little grading optimization button from the ribbon, and we get this extra little pop-up here. Now, one of the first things I'm going to recommend doing here is to tinker with the optimization options, because out of the box, the iterations are set to 100,000. Maybe bring that down to like 10,000, so you don't sit there waiting for it to grade all day. Also depends on the complexity of your site and the density of your surfaces to see how you're working through here. Once you're inside that box, there is a little optimize button. And once you hit that button, it's going to hit the ground running. It's going to start doing its swirling and changing and moving. And the colors are going to be really shown off on the right-hand side, the grading elevations. And that analysis can be stopped at any moment if you think that you've been here waiting enough and you like what you see, because it is not just a preview window. We will be able to mouse around and zoom in. And we're going to be able to see the details of what's happening. And depending on what we have on the left-hand side here, we can look at our design parameters and see how it's affecting my terrain. So we do have an extra set of tools within this dialog box that we can enable, like the little flow arrows and cut and fills and violations, so we know exactly what's going on with our design. Now, it may take it a few minutes to run through all those iterations. Like I said before, this analysis can be stopped at any moment. But if you look at what you have and you like it, please remember to click on the Send Optimization Result. Now, in this case, this screenshot is still running. I can stop it and pick on that button, because if you don't pick that button, it was just an analysis. You know, maybe it failed and you can go back and change your designs. Once you pick on the appropriate button, you're going to get the Save Optimization Results window over here. There is a name for the surface there. If you don't give it a name, it's going to just be the new surface name, and it's going to get a style defined to it. So out of the box here, this is what we started with, and this is what we end up with. So it's a really, really interesting tool set that we work out. And really what I want to do is just jump right on in. I'm not going to run through the options of creating this entire site. I just want to go over what the site looks like and hit the tool. All right. So let's go ahead and open that up. I'm going to go here and open up Civil 3D 2022. And I have this site that I've been working with. And we're just pretty much going to create a little parking lot area here for, I don't know, a small lot, a little bit of parking, and there's my site, my building pad. So this is the potentially a real world site that we're working with. So you can see how the existing conditions look like with the aerial imagery here. It is a geolocation image that I'm going to go ahead and turn off. And let's start playing with this site over here, because right now I do have the existing grade that came from field survey or GIS. I was dealing with a parking lot surface to tinker out with what I have here, but we will be creating our own surface as this site gets modeled. Now, inside of here, I'm going to go over here and start looking at my Analyze tab, and I have the Grading Object button over here. Once I hit that first button, it should open both of the tools that I'm going to be working with here, the Grading Object Browser, and right below it, the Grading Object Tools. So these are my tools that we have here. They can work off of regular standard objects. So if you are trying to create a ditch or a swale or edge of pavement, if you happen to have an AutoCAD polyline, right, and I draw the line as where I would want that swale to be at, I can define that object exactly that. So here are my tools. Pretty much as I start off with, I need to really work with my first zone, and from there I can start working from the outside in. But just as an example, let's say that polyline that I just drew, I want it to be a drain line. And the direction that I AutoCAD drew, it's going to be really important. As I select it, it's going to say, hey, select the object as drain lines. So you can then start engaging all those AutoCAD elements that you have, whether it's back of curb, edge of pavement, the high points or low points that you want to work off of, and it's going to consume it directly. And it gives you a little bit of information on there. You can see that C Site Ramp 7. I can give it my own name here. I'm going to call it Test. Should be able to call it Test. And down here, I can see where it's at. And I can give it a color and assign values to it. So there's my drain line. I can organize this drain line and start raising and lowering it to give it a priority on my site as well. But I can also explore the rest of this site and what I have readily here available. I have some low points on this site. They highlight for me. I have some elevation, no elevation offsets, a couple of different zones in my design. I have edge of pavement, my parking. I am running a little bit of curbing here as well. And I'm running a building pad. So all these tool sets are panels that open up, and if you happen to have multiple screens, it's going to be great because you can move it to the opposite screen there. And that's really the gist of running this design. Not like AutoCAD feature lines. That's not what this is. If I look at my AutoCAD properties, this still is an AutoCAD polyline. I did give it intelligence within my grading optimization, but it's still a standard AutoCAD element. So from here, what I'm going to do is run through again. I'm going to open up my tool set here. looking at those options, once I've added in all the intelligence, I can start looking at, well, optimizing my site. And that gives me an extra window here. It's going to say, hey, it's going to ask me what is the surface I want to compare against. Let's say the existing ground, and it opens up my panel. Now it opens up this extra window, and I can start looking at existing conditions on the right-hand side. I see just elevations being coded out for me. My design options here to the right. And what I can do is just hit the optimize button at the bottom here. And that's going to run through my design. And come on, buddy. And once I hit play, it starts running through those iterations to try to run my design, running off of the parameters that I gave it. Starting to look at the zones that I was working with, the slopes, the minimums, the maximums that I want to work off of. And it starts kind of flowing there. You can see the contours kind of change for me. I can zoom in and zoom out and see what's going on. I can see my flow lines there with arrowheads. That's one of the things that if you messed up and drew it incorrectly, you can immediately see here on the screen what's going on. There are some options here. I missed to show off the iterations, which this one should already be set to 10,000. But I also have the control of what's going on here. And let's open up the hydrology button here so we can get some slope arrows here. And you can see the resulting surface as it's running through the iterations. I can see, for example, my results in cut and fill. And I can also see, for example, violations where I'm outside of the minimums or maximums that I gave it. So that's how I can run the site to take a look at what's going on here. I can let it run here. You can see how it's optimizing. It's about 50% there. I don't want to spend another 5 minutes trying to run through this. And we will continue working on it. I'm just going to go ahead and stop it. This is the key here. If you hit stop and exit out, it's not going to generate a surface for you. All right. Oh, by the way, this is the options that I wanted to talk about before. Little slide there. The iteration is set to 10,000 in this drawing. I believe it's default to 100,000. You may want to tinker with these values here and really start looking at how long it's taking for you in the background. I'm going to call it good here. I'm going to click on the button to send those optimization results. And once I pick on that, it's going to give me the box here. Now, if you're anything like most of my users, you're pretty much hit pick, go, go, go. And if you don't give it a good name, it's just going to be that default new surface name and whatever style set to here. Tells you what it's going to create there for you. One surface will be transferring into the drawing. Right now, as you can see, there's only two. I can finish this off, and I will get that new surface sit in here because I didn't choose to mess with it at all. It's going to go ahead and just pop right on in here. It's going to give me an event that some little notes here that it did end up creating an object. If it had any crossing break lines or anything like that, I'm going to get it. No, it just tells me that it created a new surface, and here is a new surface. So I can take that sucker, select it, and run into my object viewer, take a look at what it looks like. You can see how it has a parking lot set up, my curb and gutter set there as well, the islands. You can see the building pad at the end there. So it gives me a resulting surface, a finished grade surface. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this. It's a brand new tool, 2022. So with that, expect what you're to expect with brand new tools. Issues and limitations is basically what I'm trying to go out and talk about here. And as an example, for 2022, I believe we do have already a couple service packs for 2022. And I just want to let you know that for 2022, we are currently on update, at least update 1. I thought there was an update 2. So it's a newer tool. It gets you to where you want to be a little bit quicker, especially if it's a larger site. It's brand new, and I would like for you guys to take a look at it. It is an extra installation, and you're going to see it over here on the Analyze tab. So make sure you download it. Make sure you have the appropriate entitlement for it, so you can go ahead and start using it and playing with it. All right, creating objects and creating elements inside of grading, it's not the exact same as grading from what it used to be. So just be aware that those tools, if you understand grading, how it used to work inside of Civil 3D, that's how it's going to end up working out. By the way, I can see some questions coming in. We'll address the questions here at the end of the presentation. So don't worry, we will come back and address those. I just want to run through the rest of the presentation here. And the next portion I want to talk to here is dealing with Project Explorer, another tool set that is available within our 2022. Now, Project Explorer is not necessarily new to 2022. It was available in 2021. But again, it's not part of the Civil 3D installation. You have to go out there and find it and hit it and download it as well. Very similar to, well, like what we just saw for grading, very similar to our vehicle tracking. It's an extra tool set. It does also need its appropriate entitlement for you to go ahead and use it. Just because you have Civil doesn't mean you get Project Explorer. Once you have it installed, you'll see it on the Home tab. In earlier releases, I think it was inside of the Add-ins tab, but in 2022, it appears here under the Home tab. Once you pick on it, it will provide an extra window, a single application that allows you to interface with Civil objects. And what that looks like is something like this. It's a one-stop shop that digs into Civil 3D objects to view, to query, to create, to edit, and to report on. Very, very awesome. And I'm going to show some of those options here as we move forward. Now, as part of my presentation, I do want to talk about that one of our very own, Brian Johnson, another Civil application expert here, has a 5-part blog on this. He talks about the introduction, managing objects, creating reports, creating tables, and creating object sets. So you may want to visit our, pretty much if you can click on these links. I do believe we'll put this out there on the web. Otherwise, you can just go to IMAGINiT blogs and do a search for Project Explorer, and there's a little bit of that information out there, a 5-part write-up by our very own Brian Johnson. Now, what this looks like is, well, let's go ahead and take a look inside of Civil 3D. And we're going to go over here to my Project Explorer sample. Now, a lot that you're going to see inside of Project Explorer is going to be familiar, and you're going to say, yes, I can do that inside of Civil 3D. But what we can do inside of Project Explorer is do it better and at times a lot more quicker. Trying to just get information for surfaces. How many surfaces do I have? Or maybe pipe networks. How many pipe networks do I have inside of here? Or within a pipe network, the actual pipes and structures, and see that information. All of this information that we see here, yes, we can see it inside of Prospector, but we're going to get a slightly different interface where we can see all this data immediately. And that is within Project Explorer. Now, Project Explorer is modeless. And that means I can take this window and take it into another screen if you happen to have it, because I can deal with Civil 3D and do the things inside of here, and I can do things inside of Project Explorer as well. You're going to see a series of tabs across the top telling you the type of objects that we have. We have 28 alignments, 8 assemblies, 1 corridor, 6 point groups, 4 surfaces, 26 feature lines, 58 parcels, 3 pipe networks, 1 pressurized network, and apparently no sample groups, no block, oh, a couple blocks that we can deal with, nothing really too much, and any reports I can run inside of here. What I can do is just talk to these objects a little bit more directly. As an example, looking at this interface, I can customize this interface, except for really this little preview window here. I can customize the information that I have down here for columns, the information that I have down here for columns as well. And one of the defaults that comes out of the box here is the fact that I'm running intervals at 10 feet along lines, 5 feet around curves, and 5 feet around spirals. Yes, this is specifically for alignments, but you'll see that number 10 be a key core portion of the software. You can see how it's breaking down my stations at every 10 foot, giving me my eastings, my northings, and my stationing and information on there. So just be aware of that. How the software can give you breakout information. I can create reports at this same interval, things that I wasn't really able to do from within Civil 3D directly. And I can navigate to any one of these alignments and take a look at what I have here. And that's dealing with alignments specifically here. Now, the really awesome part here is I can take an element, and right-click works a little bit different. If you right-click on a tab, if you right-click on a window, if you right-click on an object, I get all kinds of different right-click options. One of the things that we can do inside of here is zoom to elements, and I can right-click and do a zoom to or a select or a pan to. So I can do a zoom to on my screen, And I can zoom to the alignment, and I can right click on it and say select if I wanted to. And it does center it in my viewport. So because I am taking a good chunk of my viewport with this window, it is supposed to be centered. And there's, as an example, Emerson. So it is a navigation window that works really neatly. Yeah, simple things that you could do. Now, it's not only a viewer, it is an editor. As you can see inside of here, typically the things that are shown off in purple here are editable, or things that are bold, I'm actually highlighted on and I can change. If I wanted to change my assembly, I can start looking at that information and change it inside of here. One-stop shop to pull all this information, and it's active. This is the really awesome part about just editing assemblies, is that I can leave this window open and start messing with my design immediately here on the screen, and I can see how they could potentially change on the screen. I'm gonna go here for road section. Let's do lane. Let's change, for example, the width of this sucker, and I'm gonna change it to 24 feet. And from this window, what I have is the ability to start messing with my designs. And in this case, because I changed my, let's say my assembly here, you can see how it's a lot wider. That did change, in this case, my corridor. And I can go see how my corridor is out of date and choose to rebuild it. And hopefully here I can see how that roadway did step out an extra 12 feet on the pavement piece. And it should show, if I modify the correct piece, there it is, it modified it over here. So you can see how that design does change. And I like how it's modeless, so I'm able to do changes in this box really, really quickly. Getting information is really neat. This is, for example, a feature line that I have here. I do have filters, and I didn't really talk too much about those. It just depends on which category you're looking at here. I have a feature line here under my Site 1, and I have it here on the screen, and I can zoom to it. And if I put it on my screen here, there's the feature line. And I do have quick keys inside of here. The help bar is really neat. Our blog talks about this. The fact that I can select, highlight, or get into properties, as in I can do S for selection. I can do, as I hover over Z to zoom to it, or X to zoom to it. I can start highlighting by using my control key. See how it kind of blinks on there for me? And I can also get into the properties of this element immediately by using the A or the W. So I can get into information a lot quicker to see, to touch, to edit. And inside of here, I do have a little bit more information that I could grab. And on this feature line, as an example, holding the control key is really, really neat, because it does allow me to highlight those areas and really show them off on the screen. As I hold the control key, you'll notice here, holding the control key will highlight them on my screen. So if I hold the control, you'll see it pop on the screen. Now, a lot of these categories as well have this really awesome option where I'm able to compare. I can compare objects. So I can compare this feature line as an example. I can compare it up here to my surface. And I can see where that surface is at and where my feature line is at. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you it's a 3-foot difference. But down here, I can see the elevation, and there is a whole value of comparisons over here. And it is a 3-foot buried underneath it. Now, I can choose to compare it to the example, the alignment. And as I run through here, as I start looking at these options, I can look at the first vertice and highlight it. And if you notice here on the screen, if I hold my control key, you'll notice that out here is going to give me that distance when I use my control. It's about negative 55 feet to the left. So it pops that value for me as I start comparing these elements. Now, there's just a lot that I can do inside of here. This presentation will be recorded. It is brand new. I wanted to talk about these 2 new tool sets that we have, and they're very similar in the way that you have to download and install them. Continuing to work inside of here, what we can do is deal with parcels. And this is one of my favorite things that we can do with parcels, is that a lot of times it's so slow to deal with parcels from within the Civil software. And inside of here, I can start looking at all my elements and start talking to them a lot quicker than I could before. Picking out a particular element, it does give me the information behind it, all the lines that are attached to that particular parcel, its size. If I have need to change these parcels, as soon as I select them, I do have the ability of going into, and for example, changing a description field or maybe a style. And I have had problems where it's a little bit slower to deal with dealing with multiple objects within the software. Now, not only a viewer, I have options to do more with this. And this is where I'm going to step through a little bit deeper into the Project Explorer, because what I can do inside of here is really create sets. And sets allow me to then do things to that collection. whether it is very specifically, I only want to deal with these 3 parcels, or I want to talk about parcels in general. What we can do is once we have sets, I can set commands to them or functions. As an example, I have one here where if I open it up, I can take my parcels to a PDF and I can run a report. And that report is controlled by me, how much I see from these parcels, the content, the decimal placement, the look. I can also take these parcels and take it out to a DWG. And this is the power within Civil 3D is that all these civil elements tend to be an issue to those who are not using Civil 3D. As an example here, I'm just going to run this parcel to PDF, and I'm just going to run the selected action here. And this is completely predefined, and I'll go ahead and backtrack and show you here as I run the report. It is meant to take the parcels and put them on a PDF. Now, you can run very similar reports inside of Civil 3D, but I have complete control of decimal spacement, the way this is centered to the left, to the right, and content, where I don't have to Frankenstein this inside of an Excel sheet to try to get the report that I want, to get to whatever governing agency I may need to be after. So that's an example there. This particular report here, again, if I go into open it up, I can create different types of actions from this. I did choose to run a PDF. I can push this out to an HTML, to a CSV, and I can go through and even create tables from this information inside of Civil 3D. And I'm going to do that with my pipes. Now, I'm not going to create a pipe table. I'm actually going to create a AutoCAD-like table with piping information. It's really hot. The other part that I want to show inside of here is the fact that I could actually take any civil object, in this case, I'm going to focus on parcels, and export into AutoCAD. And I'm not sure if you've ever had to do this, to deal with maybe surveyors, landscape architects, or other design firms and share basic AutoCAD entities. It can be tough to take these intelligent AECC objects and dump them down. This tool set is immediate inside of here. And what I can do inside of this, I'm not going to go ahead and run it. I already ran this earlier, and this is a modeless window. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump over here to my next drawing. And I just ran the parcel to AutoCAD. And what you have here is, well, just basic AutoCAD lines. And you do have basic AutoCAD text then. So you can take intelligent objects and create brand new drawings from your source drawing without messing with it. And it's kind of like doing, yes, a save as, but I was very specific to choose only parcel type objects. In this case, I chose all of them. I could have chosen to do a handful of them, my alignment, my surface, whatever it might be. And I can take those intelligent civil elements and dumb them down without making any changes or affecting my main drawing. So I think that's pretty powerful as not necessarily as a report, but it's really about what's referred to here as object sets. To object sets, I have then behavior I can set to them. Now, let's deal with a little bit more with this box here, and then I can jump over here to questions in just a little bit. Let's take a look at piping. Now, piping is really awesome, because very similar to what you can do inside the Prospector tab, I can pick on these elements here and take a look at reading them. I can run reports and I can create tables, and that's what I would like to do here in just a little bit. But I can also run edits. Once again, if it's bold or that purple color there, it is editable. This box and interface is completely editable. The colors that you see here, the shadings that you see here, the order that these columns are at, if you don't like them, this can all be reorganized and restructured to fit your needs. And inside of here, immediately I can see that on screen, you see that purple? That's my rule set. You know how typically we end up taking existing ground to try to create a minimum or maximum cover? That's my rule set, and I can immediately see on screen whether that rule set's being obeyed without having to create minimum depth profiles or take the surface and copy it down. Bang, immediately you see there on the screen. Now, yes, what we're able to do is see this information, but there's this other really, really awesome function over here that, because it looks at this series of pipes as a pipe run, not the pressurized pipe run in the latest release of the software, but within Project Explorer, it looks at that leg right there as a pipe run. And what I can do is, per the entire length, or I can tell from which structure to which structure I want to go to, what I can do inside of here is start editing that pipe run, and I can say, hey, let's hold the start elevation and end elevation. I can design to perhaps a grade or a slope or an elevation change. Now, imagine just have tool sets that do a very similar result as this, but what I want to do here is perhaps set a slope, and let's set a 2% slope throughout. And all I have to do is hit enter there, and it should then run the math for me. And as I hit OK and exit out, you'll see how that is now designed at 2%. So it allows me to change all these objects at once. And unlike before, where I wanted to perhaps happen to go to each individual object to do something like this, I do have options to talk to these elements all at once. And it's not like the AutoCAD properties tool palette that's limited. This is full on Civil 3D. Now, this was a third-party acquisition. Autodesk is now developing it. So we may see things that are missing, things that are not working quite right. It was released in 2020, so this is something that's up and coming and readily available from within the Civil package. It pulls all that Civil information to view, to edit, to query, or to even create tables. As an example, I can run through here and I have a piping table over here. And this is another one of my sets. And I've completely controlled the set to look exactly the way I want to. I have the content here for my structures called out exactly what I want to show off. So I'm going to create a table that gives me the exact information that I want. Not only that, I'm creating a table that is shown exactly the way I want to, the way that it's colored in, that's filled in. It is going to be an AutoCAD-like table. It's not going to be a Civil 3D table. It's going to be almost like an AutoCAD table, but not. It's going to be created via Project Explorer, and all that information is going to be tied to this. So what I'm going to do is just run through this sucker here, and I'm going to run that selected action, and it's going to ask me where to put this guy, and there is my table. Now, this is, if I go here to the properties, that is an AutoCAD table. Now, this is the wicked awesome part here, guys. This table, and the gotcha that I'm going to give you is, it's not a Civil table, but it is, I want to say partially dynamic. In the sense that here, I'm looking at the sanitary structure 70. Let's mess with structure 70 inside of here. And I'm just going to go directly inside of Civil 3D and look at pipe networks, sanitary, and let's look at structures, and let's tinker with structure 70 up here. And I'm just going to change this name. New name. That should, it made me a liar. That should be a dynamic edit. It was for sanitary. Oh, dang it. It should have been dynamic. I'm not sure what's going on there. I was messing with my table earlier. The deal is here, and it should have been dynamic. As long as this window is open, it should be dynamic. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. If you try to run changes now, this table will not update dynamically. But as soon as you go back and open up Project Explorer, this table should update. And because I was tinkering with it before the demonstration, I think I may have broken it. I had created and then deleted it right before our presentation here. So it could be that it's just not updating right now. Yeah, it's not updating for me right now, but I can always go through and there it is. Now it updated. I just ran the selection action again, and you can see how that name did update. So I want to warn you with these tables, they are basic AutoCAD tables. They are completely configurable by you of how much you want to see. And I've had problems with this as far as some municipalities want to see both structures and pipes, and Civil 3D offers one or the other. Or some municipalities or governing agencies like to see content in a particular fashion, and I had to hack into it inside of Excel to try to create the table that I want to. I'm not going to guarantee that you can get exactly the table that you want to, but we now have options to do that within this Project Explorer panel. A lot of tools that I get inside of here, a lot of fancy functionality. It just gives me another place to work within Civil 3D. It is modeless, so I can have it open in my other window and start playing with this to try to generate the reports, generate the drawings, and run through the edits as I see them fit. So whatever you're doing a lot of Civil 3D edits, whether it's corridors, parcels, piping, it will talk to all these smart AECC objects and run through quite a bit of functionality. not to be left behind, it does talk to AutoCAD blocks. So if you do have things like planters or dealing with any other AutoCAD elements that you want to try to create a block count or do something with them, we can try to engage those blocks or title blocks even within this panel. I haven't worked too deep with that. I've been really focusing on the civil tools within this particular tool set. I know I ran pretty quickly inside of here. There's just so much that we have really available from the software and what we're able to do with it. There are 2 brand new tools. You're not going to see them immediately as you install 2022. You're going to have to go out there and download them. They will need its own entitlements, but they are really, really awesome to work with. It's interesting what we can do with this up and new technology. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gladys to help me out with whatever questions may have come up.